So, I've been steadily grinding the hell out of Modern Warfare 2 since it released. Yeah, look, I may have a problem, alright? But through this copious addiction to the game, I've been taking a lot of notes about what works in this Call of Duty and what doesn't, and how to apply that to the game and improve as a player. Let's raise those KD ratios together. G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we're going to be sharing some tips and tricks to raise your game in Modern Warfare 2. So no lollygagging today because I know you're all here for quick and easy tips. Let's get straight into things and start talking about what you need to be considering when playing Modern Warfare 2. First things first, we need to talk about some settings. It's not the sexiest thing in the world, but some of these settings will pave the way to a better gameplay experience that improves you as a player. Right out of the gate, and I cannot stress this enough, do not turn on mono audio. The setting in-game right now talks of needing it on to have separate left and right audio channels in the game. This is not correct. Turning it off will actually give you a proper stereo sound solution that will allow you to dictate directional audio in the game. This is of course extremely important for picking out gunfire, footsteps, and other audio cues as such. Leave mono audio off. Next up, make sure you turn your first-person camera movement down to 50%. This helps you to reduce some of the visual shakiness in the game, making target acquisition and clarity that little bit easier. Of course, as per usual, whether or not you're on console or PC, make sure your sensitivity settings are dialed into your comfort level as well before you start playing. And for my PC brethren, I put this tip in here because I found it a little hard to find originally. If you're using an Nvidia graphics card that supports DLSS, it can be enabled in the graphics menu under the upscaling/sharpening option menu. I personally use performance mode with 100% sharpening, which I find to be a great mix of visual fidelity and frame rates. Frames win games, we all know this, and it's undeniable that DLSS really does go a long way in giving you those extra frame rates. I know by turning this setting on, I was able to score at least an additional 60 FPS in most maps, sometimes 30 for the, bigger maps, but you get the idea. But okay, we've now got our settings dialed in, and we're ready to play the game. The first tip I can give for getting the most out of this game is actually the most important tip I have to give here in today's video, and that being slow down. Now, that may sound ambiguous, but hear me out. I know that we're all used to running around like headless chickens and abusing the hell out of movement mechanics that have been in the COD franchise for a very long time. The movement kings of this franchise will be very used to slide cancelling, bunny hopping, things like that. Well, slide cancelling and bunny hopping aren't a thing here anymore. The movement meta of COD is behind us, and the game has very much returned to a slower pace that is reminiscent of older Call of Duty titles where raw aim and positioning is king. I'm not here to get into a grand conversation as to whether or not that's a good thing for the franchise. That's for another video, so if you're keen for that and you're enjoying the content so far, be sure to get subscribed for future videos and live streams. But shameless self-plugs aside, the culmination of changes to the movement system, slower aiming down sight speeds across the board, slower sprint out times, and a blitzing time to kill means that this game demands that you be a little bit more methodical with your gameplay. I'm not saying that you need to equip deployable cover and a claymore and just sentinel up for a whole game. The gameplay in the background should tell you otherwise, in fact, and it does tell you that you are free to move around a little bit and still perform very, very well. You just need to be a bit more careful with what you do. You're no longer able to just blitz around a corner and see what happens. You do need to sort of take things a bit slower. And as you begin to learn the maps, the angles, the firing lines, audio cues, spawns, so on and so forth, you can start turning up the pace. But anyway, alongside the slower movement pace of this game, animations in the game also take a little longer across the board, and they may be longer than some may be used to from previous Call of Duty titles. Weapon reloads in particular in this game aim to be a lot more immersive, and while the animations do look sick, they take a while to get done. You're going to be spending a lot of time watching your weapons reload in this game. So it's very important to make the most of your magazine, and be sure to take the time to get a safe reload in whenever you do need to get that reload. I have fallen prey to this oversight many a time in my early days of playing this game, whether that be forgetting to reload or reloading at an inopportune moment. Now, while you can't fully reload cancel anymore like you used to be able to in previous Call of Duties if an enemy jumps you mid-reload, you can actually cut down on the reload times a little bit here. With most weapons, the reload will actually be complete a little sooner than the completion of the animation. As soon as your magazine count is updated in the bottom right corner of your screen, the reload has completed and you can tack sprint to cancel it out. This takes a bit of practice to perfect, and each weapon will have differing levels of impact when adopting this cancelling strategy, but it does save you a little bit of extra time in the long run and lets you tie in your gameplay a bit smoother. Just something to know. But on the topic of animations, and this is a pretty big one here, the activation animations for the UAV and the counter UAV are very long. But did you know you could cancel them and still call in the kill streak? If you press the keybind to activate the UAV or counter UAV kill streak and then immediately hit prone afterwards, you cancel out the animation but still call in the kill streak. This leaves you the freedom to go about your business a little bit sooner without having to watch your R3 character hit that damn smartphone really slowly. And on the topic of speeding up your animations a little bit, let's take a quick moment to talk about some of the best perk selections you can make in the game right now. Obviously, there's a lot of perks in this game right now that each have their own roles and use cases for different playstyles, but as a general rule of thumb, so far I've found that Scavenger and Double Time for your Tier 1 slots, Fast Hands for your Tier 2 slot, and Ghost or Quick Fix for your Tier 3 slot are the most powerful to have in your arsenal right now. And the reason I tie this point in on the end of the animations talk is, well, Fast Hands here. Fast Hands drastically cuts down some of the reload times on these weapons, and it really does give you the freedom to spend less time actually staring at animations and more time shooting dudes. There's also no denying just how powerful Ghost is in this meta of UAVs being absolutely everywhere. And yes, it is one of the latest unlocks you can get in the progression, so you're gonna have to spend some serious time grinding to get Ghost unlocked, but I promise you the grind is worth it, and it really does open up more freedom to you when it comes to moving around the map, even under that UAV presence. But I have to say, I've also found some incredible success with Quick Fix as a relatively aggressive player because, well, in those 2v1 situations, that extra slither of health you get from killing the first target may go a super long way in surviving the next engagement or even the next 2 engagements. The reheal time in this game is super slow, so Quick Fix is definitely a worthy perk to swap Ghost out for if you're a more aggressive player. But Quick Fix can't solve everything, which is why learning when enough is also an extremely important tip to being successful in Modern Warfare 2. Sometimes the way forward is backward, and just because someone started a fight with you or you started a fight with somebody else who found some cover, it doesn't mean you have to see it through. Sitting in a spot playing chicken with an enemy or charging one that you got a few hits on may just lead you to an incredibly crappy 2v1 situation, or for someone to flank you. All of those situations are less than ideal. Sometimes just agreeing to disagree and going on your own ways is the best way to go. You're going to cross paths later in the game anyways. Don't sacrifice a kill streak over 1 kill and by clouding your judgment. Okay, let's move on to the progression of the game here and how to handle it, because there's a few differences here. I will echo the advice that has been given by plenty of creators and social accounts on Twitter, for example. The invasion game mode farming bots and kill confirmed are, as I understand it, the most effective ways to get weapons ranked up currently. I personally haven't been going down these farming routes myself too often, but I've still found a pretty handsome amount of success in the 6v6 mode for my weapons anyway. And I use the term weapons here, plural, very specifically because the last few COD games have all trained us to really dial in on a select weapon and grind the bastard out until the cows come home. With the change to the progression of this game, that changes here. Things like optics, under barrel grips, muzzle attachments, and lasers are universal unlocks in this COD game. You can't unlock every attachment for a weapon by just using that one weapon. So my advice, explore the weaponry on offer in-game here. Across the board, I haven't come across too many guns that feel incredibly unfun to play with, and the weaponry selection feels pretty unique across the arsenal. So spend some time experimenting and getting used to the different options that are available to you here. And as you start to unlock both these universal attachments and the attachment specific to your weapon, there then comes the age-old question of what the hell do I run on my weapon? A common question running through the community right now is it worth running attachments in the first place, or running weapons with less than the 5 allocated attachment slots? It's true, a lot of weapons have downsides that will impact things such as your aiming down sights movement speed or weapon accuracy. A lot of weapons sit in pretty nice middle grounds while being completely bare of attachments as well, which is why you're seeing a lot of commentary right now surrounding the merit of not taking many attachments. It really is a case-by-case basis and depends on the kind of class you want to make with the kind of weapon you want to make. Now, I personally have had a lot of success with attachment options in the past, and my recommendation would be that you either aim to improve your ADS movement speed with a weapon or recoil control with a weapon, depending on the range you intend to use it at and the game mode you intend to use it in. Spend a bit of time looking at what the weapon accomplishes out of the gate, what its key stats are as a default weapon, and where the areas of improvement need to be for you to make it work for you. It's really going to come down to your playstyle, but there's a lot of success to be had here when you really spend a lot of time understanding and making the best use of the gunsmith. We'll be doing in-depth weapon reviews soon that'll go into particular weapons and some of the builds that I've found for them that might help you in-game as well. Tuning is also something that you unlock and get to use once you complete a progression line for a particular weapon. For those wondering, tuning is an additional layer of customization where you can go into certain attachments that are on your weapon and begin playing with sliders to impact how those attachments impact your core weapon. All I can say is that it's a great tool that really should not be ignored. I promise you, spend some time with the tuning once you unlock it. It may look a little daunting at first, but I promise you it is well worth playing around with and finding that sweet spot. It should not be ignored because your opponents aren't going to be ignoring it. So you shouldn't either. Now, obviously, with all of this customization and this tuning, there's a lot of stuff you're going to be doing to your gun that's going to significantly impact its performance. The games that you load into don't need to be your testing ground. The game actually has a built-in firing range that you can load into at any time just to test out your weapons and the attachments that you're running on them. I personally would recommend using this firing range every time you change out a weapon attachment or are planning on doing a bit of tuning because, well, if you make a mistake and you take it into a live fire environment, then you're going to spend half that game rejigging and re-editing your class as per needed, which is a much more cumbersome experience than doing it in the firing range and getting that tuning done there before a game starts. So use the firing range and really abuse it to its full potential. Now, moving back into the live fire game environment for a moment here, sight is your friend, but sound, that's your informant. With the minimap in this game no longer providing you red dots as to when enemies are shooting, relying on the audio information that the game provides is a huge step in the right direction. If you're not listening for footsteps, you're doing something incredibly wrong in this game. Taking stock of gunfire and whether or not an ally has gone down as a result of that firefight is also a good trick to have up your tool belt if you need it. And on the topic of situational awareness, yes, the minimap has been gutted in this game. It no longer provides red dots on enemies when they shoot unsuppressed weapons. However, it still can provide you a ton of info about how the game is moving overall. Look for where your allies are, and gaps in that ally coverage may actually represent where enemies are most likely to be. Pair that with the audio that we talked about earlier, and you have an idea as to what you should expect and where you should expect it to come from. The minimap can give you a great idea as to when spawns are starting to move and, well, where you should go to get the opportunistic approach on dealing with people as they spawn. However, in addition to that point, when you are flanking around and you're sort of dilly-daddling among an enemy spawn area, don't get too cocky and don't push forward too heavily if you get a couple of kills. The squad proximity spawning mechanics of this game mean that, well, enemies are going to most likely keep spawning in and around that area if there is at least one or two still present, which means that as you get kills around the spawn area, people are going to know where you are and they're going to start rushing you. So again, don't get too cocky, know when to fight and flight, and be opportunistic about your approaches when getting aggressive. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap up of every tip and trick I have for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 at this given point in time. I'm sure I've missed something, so I want to hear from you guys in the comment section down below. What are some of the tips and tricks you have for playing Modern Warfare 2? You might be able to help out a fellow gamer today. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to backhand the like button as it does go a long way to supporting the channel. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. We've got a lot of exciting content coming that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. As always, social media links are also linked in the description down below. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.